meeting took place at Carlton Hotel, where all the clubs that decided, to secede had to sign a memorandum. But in that, memorandum, there was one condition, that the main sponsor says that if you want to do this new league on one proviso, if Pirates and Chiefs are part of it, then we're going to be sponsoring you. Now, there was a very interesting story that took place there. There were two pirates at the time. One that led what we saw what happened at Ellis Park. Leon Heck was the man responsible to be arbitrating the peace between the two pirates, warring factions. The meeting was supposed to finish at 2 o'clock. That was a deadline. I remember the Pirates delegation came at 5 to 2 to come and sign that declaration. The interesting part, in that committee, Thabo Madia was the chairman, or the ordinary member of the committee at the time. Remember, I was secretary, and I became an ordinary member of the committee. But in that committee was a treasurer, Irvin Khoza. Irvin Khoza, his son now is the owner, part owner of the 405 newsroom. Was a very vocal guy, said, but guys, let's think differently. This new thing, where are we getting to this new thing? But we understood at the time that this new innovation is going to give us the autonomy that we require to do things for professional football, because it needs a lot of taking, a lot of time that is required to run professional football. That was achieved with that, but there's one team that remained behind. I'm saying to say that one of the members that remained behind has just resigned because now he's the chairman of the province of Gauteng, the Sufi. Rokosas was the one remaining outside, the two, because they were now being convinced by the mother body that were leaving to remain behind. But the shrewd operator, Mr. David Shabedi, was engaging in other discussions. I'm not telling what kind of discussion, but it was very interesting, those discussions. But finally, Pirates and Chiefs signed at 5 to 2. Pirates signed. Chiefs are the first to sign. We signed at 5 to 2. Then the deal was finalized. But here's the trick, BBK. Khoza might correct me if you so wish. But the first days of Khoza Chiefs, when it was Khoza 11, it came from SA Breweries. You don't know that, BBK. I'm not actually. I'm sharing. For anything to be a brand, you must have history, culture that goes with it. Then they're able to tell a story. That's why we are a brand. Now, the PSL is a brand, SA Brewery is a brand, because they've got the history embedded in that brand of theirs. So I don't want to dominate the space, to allow, SA Breweries, to say their piece. And I take questions if there's more clarity that is required. But I'm happy because they never left the stable. They never left the stable from 1962, I think. Almost 60 professional football in this country. So they're not joining camp, they're not parachuting. They understand the space, they understand how to activate the space. So therefore, it's a worthy partnership that I've got very high regard for them, to make sure that whatever happens. There's a friend of mine, I didn't want to talk about him because I was waiting first that they must speak. Maybe they're going to mention by his colleague who's been there when it happened. SA Breweries of the Peter Lloyd, of the Norman Adami, of his name. He's here, sitting quietly behind the scene. That is the SA Brewery way of doing things. Welcome, Ene. The floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, the brand director for Carling Black Label, Arne Rust.
Thank you, Dr. Khoza, for the kind words. And yes, SA Breweries have been around for 125 years in this country, and we plan on the next 125. So good morning, members of the media, esteemed guests, Dr. Khoza, all protocol being observed. All the fans watching from home, hopefully the fans soon to watch the games in the stands. We're all looking forward to that. Carling Black Label, the brand that I have the honor of leading, is very honored as Africa's most award-winning beer to partner with Africa's premier sports body in the PSL. As you've heard, we've got a strong history. We love what we do, and I think that is why the fans love being a part of all the campaigns that we run, and we appreciate the fans because without them, at the end of the day, there is no campaign and there is no league. For us, we've had 10 years of the Carling Cup, and what the Carling Knockout Cup happening in 2023 is it's the beginning of a new chapter. It's another chance to bring innovation to the game, to bring our fans closer, to hero the champion fans, to give them a voice in the game that they love so much. So we are very proud, and we are looking forward in writing this next chapter of the Carling Knockout Cup 2023 with you. Thank you.
And now we've got an opportunity for any questions and answers. It's a Q&A session. Please, can you raise your hand, introduce yourself? We'll start off with the questions for the chairman, first of all, and we'll take it in batches of 2. There is a roving microphone that will be brought to you. So can we have the first question up front? Microphone right up front, sir.
Good day, Chairman, and congratulations about the new sponsor. It's Matthew Simpeta from the Daily Sun. First things first, how much is the prize money? And secondly, the traditional one, Chiefs and Pirates, will it continue?
Where's the space?
About the prize money?
No, about Pirates and Chiefs, where's the space? Now I'm in my capacity as chairman of the league.
Yes.
We're not here to deal with the second part. There's an answer for it. Where's the space? On the prize money is a substantial amount of money. Because the Board of Governors has not been told. So out of courtesy, it's very important to brief them as the shareholders first. But it's quite a substantial amount of money. Because, the competition is becoming stiffer and stiffer. We've got one of the most exciting platforms. And we are somehow discounting it for good reasons. Prize money, ticket to the venue is discounted. The prize money is discounted, but this time around, it's good money in terms of making sure that we fulfill our obligations as a league. So just be patient, we get the amount of money. I know you've got snitches now, they're going to leak it to you before I finish, so don't worry about that.
Just the last one for myself, Chairman, the procedure, like how will it work? The 16 December tournament, how would it work?
Now, what we are going to do from October to November will be all the 16 teams of the Premier Division, like the old Telkom Cup. Now, the Carling 11 is going to be now a competition of the fans to select. But what we have said is a competition that is very interesting. That for the first time we call it 6+5. That in the 6 the Premier League teams, and the 5 the Diski Challenge players throughout the 45, 90 minutes. How the coaches changes, but that thing must remain that way, 6+5. Now that is going to be the 6+5 is going to be selected. The first one is selected by the coaches of the Diski. The other 6 players, the complement will be 23 players. It's going to be chosen by the fans themselves, that who they want to see in that 6.
Another question? Yes, sir.
Thanks, Chairman. I'm Vugile Sebego from supersport.com. I had a different question, but the Carling 11, I think it's not like I'm throwing ideas, but I think to make it more attractive, we're supposed to invite the giants of, that was what I was expecting when you were mentioning it, the giants of African football. let's say maybe like we bring Al Ali, they play against the best 11 in the PSL. We can bring Wydad, we can bring TP Mazembe. That's what I'm saying, but I'm moving on to my question. Chairman, I don't know if I'm off topic, but from your wisdom, like something I was thinking about this morning, we have done a lot. The PSL board has done a lot. I mean, we see innovations every time. But I'm worried about the future. Like, just briefly, is the future for our football in good hands? I mean, are there people like who have been groomed to take over from you at some stage? Like, I'm just worried about the future. You've done a lot that I've said, but is the future in good hands? Just briefly. I know you can expand, but just briefly. I'm worried about the future. Is the future for football in good hands going forward?
It's an unfortunate question because the moment finds the man. When I became chairman, nobody thought I would be chairman. I'm conflicted, he's a club man, he's got experience and whatever. Time was a determiner. And we cannot, force-feed, a solution because this is a members' organization. For them to have taken a decision at that time to change the constitution, for me to be given a chance to serve their interest. And I said to myself when they came to me with a question, it dawned in my mind to say they are saying I must be chairman because now they want somebody with a skin in the game. Because all I know had people that were employed somewhere, independent people, but they had no understanding of the environment, of the ecosystem. Now we have been given that kind of, menu to say, no, we must have independent people, what they're going to come up with. They've got their agendas also. They come in there and they take the league and make it their fiefdom. I remember one CEO that we appointed years back. He went to all the clubs here. Said, this Irvin Khoza and Khoza must go. He's hardly 6 months in the job. This Irvin Khoza and Khoza must go. They're not God. Now, imagine we've invested our lives in a business there where we spend from our pockets, not from grants from somewhere. But the guy decides because of his plans, which are not the plans of the members, who wanted somebody to assist them in advancing the course of their business. It's not an easy job. And that's why I tell my members, I always pray for this, we're going to take over, because you've got to have your heart in the right place. There's a lot of capable people in the PSL. There's a lot of people that have come in from the National First Division, in the DISCI, and some of the ex-players which I always advise that it's nice sometimes to talk and comment that you want to be given a chance. If you don't involve yourself, some of us will be operating from the LFAs. We know the value chain from the LFAs all the way where we are today. I was a cashier, I was a gate controller. It was not demeaning to me to be that. I did the job, but it was in-service training to understand the value proposition of the industry. So when people speak, I know what they're talking about. So talking about, that is an issue that's going to happen at the appropriate time. And remember, they will decide, whether it's today or tomorrow, the choice is theirs. But, I'm saying from the benefit of hindsight, bring somebody to understand the value proposition, the challenges that we are faced with, and balancing the commercial requirements of the sponsors, the interests of the supporters, expectation of the media, of creating conversation for them to be relevant, to be alive, but also the interest of the clubs. And those unsung heroes who dip into their pockets to finance their clubs. They never has been spoken about. All the time, they are forgotten. That these are the guys who said, I'm going to leave my hand and spend my family's money. And that's why I said to former players that you've had a chance of the press are helping you to sponsor you from LFA. So you tell them the money you've made, plow back, then talk afterwards. And that's why I'm saying that it does not mean that because you're an ex-player, therefore you can be a good administrator. Because it does not mean because you drink too much, as a brewery beer, you can run the brewery. It doesn't mean that. So you need a lot of take. Go and get your, that's why I respect, Kaiser. Because before he became chairman of the Kaizer Chiefs, it took about 5 to 10 years behind the scene. With the late Mlokoti there, late previous Khabi there, late, Makosi there, late, Uwat Nene there, but sitting at the back. When he took over, he was ready. Because the transition from being a player to an administrator is a hell of a transition. But if you just leapfrog, you can have problems. And understood the nuances before he took over. That's why he was grounded. That's why he has done what he has done today. So.
Please can I ask that you stand when you ask your question? Yeah, we've got a question up front.
Good morning, Chairman. It's Khanitso Choko from Sport 24. Just a bit of clarity on the format of the tournament with the 16 PSL sides in the knockout. Are they going to play in the format of the old Telkom Loga Cup, where there's the last 16 quarterfinal, final, and then the game on the 16th of December?
The game on the 16th of December, the winner of the Telkom of the coming knockout cup is going to play the players from the other 15 teams that did not win. But that element of it is going to be 6 plus 5. It must be 5 Diski players and 6, PSL players, which are going to be chosen by the fans. But on the 5, they're going to be chosen by the coaches of the Diski.
Okay, we've got 2 more questions for the chairman, please.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. Velil from SABC. Just 2 quick questions. We can finally speak about it because now it's official. CAF this past weekend announcing that the Super League is coming next year. In terms of how you factor in, because we know that fixture congestion has been an issue before. In terms of how you factor in your competitions, especially with the return of this cup competition, the new Carling Knockout Cup, how do you work around that? Has PSL taken a position yet on the African Super League? And another one, Chairman, in South Africa we've been leading in this space in terms of producing good coaches. We've seen with the former Al Ali coach, we see even here at home, it's mainly locally based coaches who are winning. And I know that we've had challenges even at SAFA in terms of the licenses in the past 5 years. But is there a plan of introducing standardized coaching in the PSL in terms of who can sit on the bench? Because constantly every year we see in CAF matches, some local clubs are forced to leave out their coaches because they're not qualified to sit on the bench.
Well, the last question was that, the challenge was the CAF, licensing, program did not happen for some strange reason. That's why the coaches could not be available in terms of going to get their badges, to be able to qualify. We've got a very strict, regime, and I'm proud of it, as one of the first. That in the PSL, before the club licensing was introduced even at FIFA, we came up with the club compliance manual, which, when they talk about club licensing, we had to just transpose what was in the club compliance manual into club licensing. Compliance requirement, which helped to standardize things. One of the coaching things was one of the elements. But unfortunately, when we found out that, this thing has been terminated or suspended, it was a problem for the incoming coaches that need to qualify. But the coaching is like, education. You qualify as a lawyer at Vets, but it's incumbent upon you that if you want to further your studies, you take an initiative to go elsewhere, to get a postgraduate in terms of expertise. You want to do forensic, law, want to do what you call, tax law, want to do whatever specialty, you do it on your own. We find it not happening too much, because South Africa, they don't like to travel more often than not. They want to be domesticated. They travel when there's Bafana traveling like you travel with Bafana. On your own, you don't travel on your own. So I hope that even check, overseas, you can check, in the continent. in all the countries of the world, where you find a lot of people going to either UK or USA, you find few South Africans in the UK until the struggle was over. But at that time it was different. But now they don't go there. They don't go to America. So that's a challenge that our coaches that are emerging, they must spend money out of their pockets to better themselves. We don't wait for CAF. They can go licenses, with UEFA and Bundesliga, wherever, for them to be ready to qualify. Not wait for the CAF competition sponsored, a program, to do that. I think it's going to be a problem. Now, the second question was about, the Super League. I didn't see somebody told me that, there was a clip about it, the announcement. But what was a catchphrase there? The details will only be presented in the Congress in Tanzania. Now, if that is the case, we don't have the details. So Tanzania is next year, 2023, am I correct?
Tanzania or Super League?
No, Tanzania, Congress.
It's next month,
Yeah, that's going to be presented there, the details. So we've not received any details, I cannot talk about anything because we don't have the details. They said the details are going to still be shared or revealed, for everybody. So sitting here, I don't remember in the agenda item when we had a discussion on it. Maybe because precisely the details were not clear yet. So when the details are clear, it's only then we can discuss about it. So I'm happy that we are protected about that one.
Okay, we've got a question at the back.
Thank you. Temba Shabalala, Joseph FM Sports. Chairman, I'm looking at the 16th, the date. I'm here at the back.
Oh yeah, I see you on the left-hand side.
Yes. I'm just worried about the 16th.
You always sit in front, but I'm surprised why you're sitting at the back. You're late today.
No, I was sitting there, Chairman, so yeah. The 16th of December, me being coming from the township, Soweto, I'm thinking about Davidton. They've got Imbewentle tournament. There is Gomatlobo games in Soweto. There's Negenege pre-festive games. And we know that the fans have always preferred the local games, the festive games. Have you considered that stepping into that space, the question of the fans, that they will always prefer their own games, where they see what they want to see and they might not attend the matches like the one on the 16th, which happens to be a big day for local games?
The more the merrier. You cannot monopolize content. Right now, I've got a lot of offering on content, from Netflix and Amazon, Disney and whatever. Can't say because you used to do Disney or Hollywood stuff only. Cannot take anything coming from Netflix. Things have changed. So the market is demanding. Unfortunately, we're our own enemies in the content creation. I did say this in our last interaction when we were announcing the other sponsorship, that Amazon had a very interesting formula of how to corner the market. They engaged Blockbuster to say, can we be partnership because we've got the outlets, we've got the concept. And Blockbuster was not keen to join them. 5 years later, Blockbuster was closed. Because Netflix was now saying, if you have a series, you must run for 3 months, like Uzalo we have in the country, Generation is running for I don't know how many years. They do the series, they dump it into the space. They never foresaw coronavirus is going to come, that we are only going to be staying at home. So you get that series, it's also taking 2 months, 3 months, in 3 weeks' time you finish that series. Therefore now it requires more content. So with all these innovations that are coming into play, it's because of the space is requiring that. The consumption of content is just unbelievable in the world. So therefore, if you don't do that, someone's going to plug that space. So therefore, you don't relegate yourself, remove yourself from the platform. Let the people choose what they want is good for them. Because we are not, playing a Davidton, Kwamahlobo, Muloi Games, Nike Center. We're all over the country. So whatever is going to be the formula, whatever, it might enhance what is in the bouquet of offerings, for entertainment for people in the cast. but we were the one best choice, to do that. By coming in, we're going to be enhancing them in terms of making sure they up their game. I was looking at the Beke and the La Mesia. I saw people there were very interesting that were playing in those games. And I asked the question, where have they been all along, these guys, with these kind of skills? But why they cannot show these skills? And I asked one of them. He says, no, Chairman, the coaches must play this way. That's why you can't see these things. But I know you used to play one of the PSL teams. He said, no, but I'm straight jacketed by the coach. I find it very strange, an interesting topic to follow up in the future. But I'm just saying that I watch those games, I consume them also. Beke.
We'll have a final question for the chairman. A reminder that you'll have a moment to have your one-on-ones. Last question for the chairman.
Did you check Twitter space this morning, Mr. Chairman? My name is BBK from the Sunday Times.
Sorry?
Did you check Twitter space this morning?
No, not today.
Not today. They want to know what your handle is. Mpoza is asking what your handle is, one. Number two, I think last week at the other conference and today, you're speaking about you going out to get the sponsorships and you're still going to discuss with the board of governors. Are you not concerned that when the day comes, to go back to the earlier question that was asked, that I'm going to call you this, when Father Christmas goes away, that is you. How are these clubs that are in the NSL going to continue to sustain themselves? Because, Chairman, you spoke about telling them to make themselves attractive to the sponsors. And we don't seem to see more of them being able to attract in their own individual capacities as clubs. Are you not worried that one day, a day will come where they are not going to be able to do things for themselves because of the initiative that had maybe been taken by you? And also, maybe to close, a word on Cherry Sadige before we conclude, after his passing.
Yeah. So I think it's very unfair that our members may appear as if they're not involved. I only spoke about the incident last week because it happened unexpectedly. When the other sponsor decided to tell us just before, an hour before the meeting of the EXCO. And when we were discussing the EXCO, it was the end of the story. Out of my own concern, I was worried about that, kind of, lapse of time, because we're supposed to submit a fixture list, to the public and the broadcasters and the sponsors for them to plan their activations. So this was a question mark. What about this sponsorship? And you know that, in that division, it's not easy to get sponsors easy. So I intervened on that one. But this one, I don't want to take the thing from Peter Mensah. This one was Peter Mensah who did this one. This one. I'm saying it was discussed, the details of it, because, it was presented, presented. Peter Mensah is responsible for this one. I'm not responsible for this one. Peter Mensah. Is he here?
He's here.
Peter, where are you? Is he not at the back? Are you here, Squire? It is, I spoke about it publicly. Now, when I did that, it was because of a good reason. Yeah, I thought I wanted to tell them that you are responsible for this sponsorship. Yes, sir. Yeah, he said I must not take the glory. That means I was responsible for that. It was presented to the executive committee. So I was putting that one because I did not tell the members, because until it happened, I could not have spoken about it until it happens. Because, the funders, they are busy people. On that day, they were going elsewhere in the world. On that day, I spoke to him, I'd have gone to Toronto, and then I said something which I cannot defend it. So the chairman is lying. But again, clubs are doing so much with limited budget, with no support, because of their calling, their passion, their love. I still want to see people in this country who take their low income, their earning, and spend with everybody. They don't complain, they don't do anything, they go the wrong side of everything. Now, that's why I said to them one day, it would be nice to call a discussion, especially with the media. They must know about the circumstances, because if we don't talk about the circumstances, that's why I'm not shy to say I was a cashier. So because you want to be shy about your beginnings, or how you're suffering, or how you're struggling, running these clubs. You don't want pity, you don't want sentiments, but you must relate to say, to get this thing going is very tough. It's tough because if the economy that is created in the market demands deep pockets, where you get extra money from? Where you don't have a factory, you don't have a mine, you don't have a bank, you don't have big business, you don't have anything. And your budget is just this, of what you're earning from a small business. You try to stretch it, you can't stretch it. Even the grant that you're getting doesn't help you. Where you should be showing profit on that grant that you are paying. Because we are trying to do the best we can to comply with the compliance manual, all the capital licenses, which requires so many things. With that capital expenditure, nobody talks about it at any different time. So there are a lot of talent in the PSL. I was just raising it because it's important that, because the things have changed now, the world has changed. It's not about the PROs that you used to know in the stadiums, It's a lot of things that are happening in the platforms that you must engage and talk and whatever. Some of them are doing it. Some of them are doing it differently. Some of them are doing it by going to Conca and visit people, the neighborhood, by entertaining them. Different ways of doing it. But I guess, there won't be a short supply of talent, which is there. So when somebody moves, then somebody comes in. And I hope that, it's going to be happening very frequently. Maybe I must do a rotation so that you see that how much talent we have, in our midst, for them to come to address the press conference. It should not be me. I'm doing it because I'm enjoying it, because I want to see you when you retire. I want you to retire when you retire.
Thank you so much,
Because
Chairman.
I don't want to give problems, to the PSL. I'm marking you. No, Teresa Dike, and I indicated, in my comment on the site interviews that we had, that what a pity, losing such a gentleman. I've never seen a player that was so neat, not clean, neat in the field of play, before and after the game. But if you don't know, you thought you didn't do any tackling. Never used to do tackling. But he was clinically with his crosses, clinically in creating chances for scoring, sharing the ball. It was just unbelievable. I mean, he had few clubs that he played for, Pubs United, he played, Highlands Park, Orlando Pirates, Kaizer Chiefs, Blue Bells. There are few teams that he played for. But in all these teams, he executed his service excellently. So for me, and I thought it's very important that, before I sit down, we should observe a moment of silence for that gentleman of the game. He was very neat himself as a person. In terms of his haircut, his looks, everything is tight, even the uniform, shirts outside, It was something else. And in all the teams he played for, he was on form. Maybe I'm mistaken, I don't remember him getting injured. I never remember him getting injured. But all the time effective. It's a few breed. You can play with the whole of your career and you don't get injured. And you come up with a staffness. But somebody who's skin like him, we used to call him a staffness. For staffness, they used to have that white uniform of theirs. Very neat. It was neat like that, Teresa Dike. To the families and the players that played with him and those that know him, we share in the grief. The extent of the pain might not be the same, but what a loss to football. He made his contribution, and that's why they say that we are great as we are now because of the shoulders of the people like him, who made a contribution to football, with not much, in expectation. It was him, Webster Dichava, very interesting characters in terms of their looks. You know, as if they're the same, you know, family members. So can you just bow our heads, don't have to stand up to observe a moment of silence for Jerry Sadiq. Thank you. You want to ask a question before I sit down?
Yes, please.
So you see that, let's see.
Chairman Maskepe Matsuwanu from Power FM. My question is on the voted for team that will play on the 16th. I mean, we already have I think the Compact Cup where players are voted for. I won't mention the Carling Black Label Cup because you said we must watch the space. And now we've got this one, the Carling 11. Do you feel these voted for teams actually offer value in terms of our football development, or are they about this unique content creation that you speak about?
You know, we are all experts when it comes to football. Football is one sport, you know, when the whistle goes, there's no engineer, there's no scientist, there's no doctor, there's no this kind of setup. It assists the supporters to understand that, you know, sometimes when they shout things on the stands without taking responsibility, how does it feel? Because now these are the players that they've selected themselves. They can't blame the chairman of the club, they can't blame the manager of the team, they can't blame the coach of the team. It's their choice. It also helps them to extend their knowledge of the game now. Sooner than later, we'll be announcing a fantasy league. It's just unbelievable how people have grown to latch on this fantasy league. Even housewives, they know players of the EPL, you know, more than they know the players of the PSL because of being involved in the buying and selling of the players. Now, it's an opportunity and a unique, you know, phenomenon in the world that we've done in making sure supporters participate, in making sure that they become part of the pain when their selection loses. Because sometimes, you know, when they pair same players, because they think are different because they are all good. They're all strikers, they're all midfielders, all defensive midfielders, all wings or wing backs, whatever. But it's very important for them to also deepen their knowledge of the game, also share to us what we don't know. We're learning from what they are doing or saying, watching the space as they are talking, selecting the players at a certain level where they must select the players. It's education for us also, which we have never been had the chance of talking, unless they go to talk shows where they talk. But here they're expressing it by voting, by sharing it during the stages of the game, the substitution and the inclusion of the players. So it's a two-way process. It's an innovation, and you might think, you know, and for now, but when it happens in the future, you'll be surprised that, you know, it started in South Africa. It's going to happen soon, as well the way it's going ahead now. So you must own your decisions as a supporter, as a friend, as a participant, also like in voting for politics. So there's a lot of discussion about politics, you know, where you know them, how to select your members. Things have changed. They're involving the voters now. So we started early by voting the supporters to participate. So in the future, it might be a recipe for other leagues to follow. There are some other leagues that are doing it now as a copy. I don't know if you are aware of it. I'm done.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chairman. They'll be posing their one-on-ones very shortly. We do have a moment now to ask questions to the brand director, Carling Black Label, Adne Rust. Once again, please just raise your hands and a microphone will be brought to you. We've got a question right up front, sir. And please, can you stand when you ask your question?
Morning. My name is Karo Pasha, unattached. I just wanted to quickly find out from you, when exactly did the talks between yourself as Black Label start, as well as the PSL, and what does this mean for you personally? Because the chairman has already spoken that it's a massive milestone. It really is. So what does it mean for you personally to be partnering with the PSL at this level? Thank you.
No, thanks for the question. This definitely is a historic moment because it sets the future for the next evolution of what Carling Black Label and what the PSL are going to do together. If you've ever been in a relationship, then you know that you need to talk more than you think. And we've been in talks with the PSL non-stop for as long as we've been, so I'd say 60 years we've been talking with the PSL. And that's how you build strong relationships, that's how you build partnerships, because keeping each other close, knowing what's important to both parties, knowing what's important to our fans, and making that happen is why we're able to do cool stuff like this.
We've got another question at the back. Yes, sir.
Yes, Temba Shabalala, Joseph M Sports. Arne, on Saturday, you even refuted anything that had to do with the Carling Black Label Cup. Just to follow up on that question, I mean, you were in PE with the Carling Champions match, the rugby side of your properties, and you didn't want to even mention anything about the Carling Black Label Cup. Just to follow to that, up on that question, out of all the properties that you have in sports, how easy was difficult for you to clinch this one, knowing that one particular team in the PSL has got a Carling Black Label on the sleeve? Was that influential in this deal being settled?
I'm reading a few different facets to that question. I think I'll answer the first one of the Saturday's interview first. Yes, we've been busy, right? Carling Black Label believes in adding value to our consumers, right? We make spans of award-winning beer every day, and we try and bring lots of value to our fans. So yes, we were in PE on Saturday, and my refutation of the question is a testament to that. When you tell me a secret, I won't tell that secret to somebody else. So that's why we're here, right? We had to wait 2 or 3 days, and now we can talk about it. In terms of your other question on, just remind me again the last bit of what you were asking there.
I was saying there's a team that already wears Carling Black Label Cup on their sleeve.
I think
in the PSL. So how much of that played a part in this deal being clinched with the PSL?
I think it builds strong relationships. We have relationships across many different clubs, across many different years. You always take things like that into account, because it's not like you're starting from scratch. You've got history. And we definitely take that into account when we're working with the clubs and with the PSL. What we always try and keep front and center is, why are we here? And how do we bring the value that we all dream of to the fans? How do we develop the players, as one of your colleagues were asking? How do we develop South African football and keep being first in the world, innovative, exciting? We had, to give an example, Samuel Eto'o was here last year with the Carling Cup, and he was astounded by the kind of work that we're doing in the Carling Cup. He was like, well, this is now in French because his translator was busy doing it. But he was asking, why isn't anybody else doing what Carling is doing in football? And to tell you the truth, I don't know. Right? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. We've seen some other players start looking at the Invitational, start looking at the Fantasy League, giving power to the fans. So we were first here, and we're proud to be first, and we're going to keep being first.
Please, can you stand?
Saz from Times Live, Sunday Times. How long is this partnership, Carling Black Label? Knockout Cup. How long?
Sure. So I'll give you the long answer first. 60 years so far and counting. This specific partnership is a 3-year contract with a potential for another 3-year extension.
Okay, let's have a final question for Arne, please.
Okay, it's Matthews again.
Okay, second last. Yeah.
Yeah, mine is just some clarity, because I'm going to go back, to what I've asked the chairman. This year, are we going to have the Carling Black Label Cup? Because I know this one starts next year, right? The Carling 11, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, so now this year, are we having the Carling Black Label Cup? Because the fans are asking questions, so we need to give them answers.
No, the fans definitely are asking questions. We're also getting questions asked. I can tell you to watch this space.
Final question for partners. The final question for Arne. All right. Thank you so much, Arne. And a big thanks to all of you for coming out, for watching live as well. This very, very big announcement. And we look forward to, of course, disseminating more information about the Carling Knockout Cup. A momentous occasion. Thank you so much for being a part of it. And remember that the PSL has a passion for soccer. Goodbye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there's an opportunity now to conduct your one-on-ones. Fatwani and Kia will assist to set them up. So your one-on-one interviews can now be organized. And then please don't leave without enjoying lunch. Lunch will be served outside.